I wish there was a device that was smaller, cheaper, and offered the same features as the Go XLR, but also had sub-mixers. Oh wait, there is, and it's called the Roland Bridgecast, a powerful and feature-packed audio mixer that provides almost everything creators would want in a sleek and compact package. I'm going to give you all the pros and cons about the Bridgecast and explain why I think this is going to be one of the best audio mixers for creators. Hi everyone, I'm Nick from Techtacula. I make reviews and tutorials for gamers and creators. Quick disclosure, Roland sent this device out for review. I do get to keep it, however, no money exchanged hands, and they don't get any input on this video. All thoughts and opinions are purely my own. Roland are a well-known professional audio company, so when I heard that they were making a creator-first device, I was pretty excited. The Bridgecast has virtual audio channels, sub-mixers, high-quality components to support an incredibly wide range of microphones, flexible port options, and even mic effects for a bit of fun. All for a pretty good price, and has black or white color options too. All of that in a surprisingly compact size, which has been achieved by using knobs instead of sliders. Now, I love sliders, but knobs feel pretty great too. Please don't take that out of context. There are 9 knobs. The 4 main audio channels, volume for headphone, stream mix, and line out, plus a couple more knobs for mic effects. There's a lot of knobs. Let me know in the comments, how many knobs is too many? We also have 4 programmable buttons underneath the audio channel knobs, and buttons for turning mic effects on and off, selecting mic effects and EQ presets, toggling mix link, and a button for toggling the stream mix and personal mix. On the back, we have a standard 3.5mm headphone jack, which also supports headphones with built-in mics, XLR port, an aux port, which is neat, line out, and a console, mobile, and PC toggle switch. Lastly, 2 USB-C ports, one of which is just for power. But this is where things got a little confusing, but also cool. While the unit does come with 2 cables, a USB-A to C and USB-C to C, if you're connected to a PC or console, you only need to have 1 cable plugged in to the port labeled USB, as the device can run purely off of USB power. Connecting to a phone, however, will require the second cable plugged into external power. Now you might be thinking, hang on Nick, won't only having 1 cable plugged in limit the functionality? What's even the point? And why do my thoughts sound like you? Well, surprisingly, the only thing it limits is the brightness of the LEDs. Otherwise, it's fully functional on USB power. And I don't know why your thoughts sound like me. That's a little weird, to be honest. The fact that this device can be connected to a console or phone is a neat bonus. Hurling insults in Call of Duty console with a nice microphone never felt so good. And it will handle pretty much any mic you use too. 48V phantom power for condenser mics, and plenty of clean gain for dynamic mics thanks to the high quality preamps Roland have included. It can run a Shure SM7B, but you will need to turn the gain up quite high. Thankfully though, it stays pretty clean. The Bridgecast processes 32-bit audio internally, and outputs 24-bit. However, by default, it's set to 16-bit in Windows for all the audio channels. It may not impact a lot of people, but for the rest, pushing volume to the max could end up with distortion, so you'll want to change this to 24-bit. The annoying part is actually having to go and manually changing it for every audio channel in Windows yourself. I do hope Roland can change this in the future to be 24-bit by default, so fingers crossed there. One major thing I wish we did have was small LED screens to show what audio channel was allocated to a particular knob. Instead, we have these pre-printed labels on the plate. If you change your configuration from the default, then these labels become useless. If they were to do this, the screens don't need to be fancy, and I wouldn't even mind if the unit had to be a smidge taller, but small screens with just bold, easy to read text for the current audio channels would be incredibly helpful. Overall though, its layout feels thought out and simple to use, and it does have a premium feel, even though it is pretty light. So what have Roland done with the Bridgecast software? Well, Roland have a simple yet fairly customizable app for Windows and Mac, which surprisingly is also open source. The Home tab is your control page for all your audio and gives you a great layout for seeing your audio levels. Here you can change what audio channels are controlled by the customizable RGB knobs and set functions for the 4 buttons. And there is a lot of options. Different muting functions, switching profiles, you name it. And 2 of the buttons can also be set to play custom sound effects. But Roland, for some reason, added the weirdest limitation for what audio files it will accept. It'll only accept audio files that are 5 seconds or less, and they must be WAV files, not MP3. What? This makes no sense to me. Like, sure, if you have a Stream Deck, you can have your sound effects on there, but why implement this in such a half-assed way? I can understand having a 1 or 2 minute cap on sound files, but 5 seconds is too short, and not allowing MP3 files just seems incredibly silly to me. But you can also assign these buttons to be MIDI enabled, however, in all of my testing, the MIDI is really not implemented well. The rest of the menu tabs are laid out pretty nicely and work as a step-by-step guide of getting you set up with the Bridgecast. Mic setup is simply where you pick the type of mic you're using and adjust the microphone gain to your liking. Once you have your mic levels dialed in, post-processing is always the next step, so Roland have mic cleanup next. Here you find a compressor, low-cut filter, de-esser, and an equalizer. The EQ is great. You get a full graph to visually see how the changes are affecting the sound, and you can toggle on more detail for further control. There's also some optional noise suppression in the form of a noise gate and what Roland calls adaptive noise suppression. The adaptive noise suppression seems like a standard denoise, which unfortunately is not dialed in that well and affects the mic quality a bit too much, so I'd recommend just sticking with the regular noise gate. Mic effects are where you can have a bit of fun and make yourself sound like a demon or sound like you inhaled some helium.
You should subscribe to this channel because you feel intimidated by my very deep voice.
And follow me over on Twitch if you like watching fun and interactive streams and enjoy a bit of cozy chaos.
The effect quality is good, and as far as customization goes, you get as much as you'd really need here, except for maybe some echo effects that would be nice to have. The game tab gets really interesting though, as Roland allow you to apply an EQ to your game audio. A few popular games are here as profiles by default, but since the settings are saved to files on your PC, it's super easy for people in the community to share EQ profiles for other popular games. These can be changed on the fly with that EQ button I mentioned earlier. The next page is one of the best, honestly. Roland didn't stop at just giving you control over game audio, but also the chat audio. Why should you have to deal with other people's crappy microphones or mic settings? Applying a compressor to your chat audio will protect your ears from any unsavory characters swallowing microphones, or just make it a lot easier to handle large Discord calls. Not much on the output tab though, only settings for adding an optional audio delay and options for choosing what audio sources are sent to the line out and to the USB when the Bridgecast is connected to a phone or console. The profile tab lets you save and load profiles, and the system tab gives you control over the LED brightness and the headphone gain, which is a super great addition by the way. The same way that some higher end microphones need more gain to sound good, the same goes for some higher end headphones as well. You can also choose the volume indicator type and how the Bridgecast shows a muted audio channel. I like the blinking animation best as it's a good way of catching your attention. I do wish there was a third option here though, to allow me to choose a custom color when the audio is muted, and then it'd be even cooler if this was paired with that blinking animation. I could set red to be my mute color, for example, and whenever I mute my audio, it will change to red and start blinking. So this would be nice if Roland could add this in the future. Speaking of muting, one thing I hope Roland adds on a future device would be making the 4 main audio knobs also act as buttons. This would give dedicated mute buttons to each audio channel, freeing up the 4 buttons underneath to allocate to other custom functions, as currently they mainly stay as mute functions, as that's kind of the main thing you need. This would give the user way more customization for how they want their Bridgecast set up. Now, the keen-eyed of you would have already noticed one thing that's missing, a routing table. The GoXLR's routing table made it super easy to see where your audio was routed and give you control over that, but Roland left it out entirely, which surprised me a lot. Since we have submixers, we technically can route audio by muting it to either the stream or personal mix, but the routing table would make it a lot easier to offer more control over what audio is sent to each output, including the line out. I hope Roland can add this in the future with an update. However, the inclusion of submixers is not underappreciated. Roland have done a really great thing here by including submixers, and these days it's pretty much a mandatory feature. It is so useful and crucial, especially for live streamers who need that extra control and adjustment to adjust audio differently from what they hear versus what the stream hears. So I'm really glad it's here. The last tab is another really interesting inclusion from Roland. It's called BGM Cast, and it gives you 36 royalty-free music tracks across multiple genres to use in your content entirely for free. You also get 16 free sound effects, but the air horn, applause, and celebration sound effects are the only ones worth using. The rest are just random sounds. But if that's not enough for you, you can sign up for their premium subscription, which Roland love reminding you about every single time you open the software. Roland, I understand you want people to sign up for this premium subscription, but the pop-up is way too intrusive. Set this thing to only show up like once a week and only if you click on the BGM Cast tab, not just from opening the software on the home screen. With that aside, the premium sub has some decent value. For $3 US a month or $30 USD a year, you get access to thousands of music tracks that constantly get updated, plus hundreds of sound effects too. You can't download any of the music or sound effects though, which is a bit annoying and a bit of a bummer, and because if you want to try and use it for recorded content, it makes it really difficult. But it's absolutely great for live streaming. These sound effects can also be added to any of the 4 customizable buttons too, which makes me wonder if they limited your ability to upload custom sound effects to try and sway you to using the BGM Cast sound effects. There is one more major thing to consider about the BGM Cast though. The music is made by Amadeus Core, a developer of AI-generated music which uses Music TGA-HR, one of the world's largest music datasets. All music is created through a human-in-the-loop process, and what that means, to break it down simply, is AI will generate a music track, just something basic, and then it's given to a musician or a producer to be enhanced, and then that final track then gets fed into the music library. Now, I'm not here to discuss the ethics of AI, whether it's good or bad, whether you should like it or not. As the AI only gives a starting point for musicians and producers to work from, it entirely comes down to your personal stance. Because at the end of the day, it's a completely optional feature, and you can just ignore it if you want, as long as Roland fixed the frequency of the pop-up. With the AI stuff aside, the sub itself is decent value compared to other paid audio services, but not being able to download the sound effects or the music is a massive drawback, and there are great free options for royalty-free music these days too. Stream beats, backing track, and stream tapes are the main 3 that come to mind, and they all allow you to download the music files as well. Because of this, it makes it hard to justify the subscription for me personally. While no product is perfect, the Bridgecast gets close. It offers so much for something that won't take up much room on your desk. But what about the price? Well, the Bridgecast retails for $300 US or about 430 Australian dollars. And to give you an idea of how that compares, and speaking in just Australian dollars for a moment, the full-size Go XLR is about $600, while the Go XLR Mini is about $350. The Elgato Wave XLR, while only $230, only has one volume dial. And a Stream Deck or Stream Deck Plus is required for more control, and while many of you may already have one, comparing apples to apples for a moment of someone just starting fresh out, that adds another $230 or $330 respectively, which brings that total cost just over the cost of the Bridgecast. Not to mention, you have to have 2 different devices on your desk compared to one. Now, Rode's closest offering is the Rodecaster Duo at $700. While it does have 2 XLR ports, 2 headphone ports, and it can connect to 2 PCs at once, it lacks virtual audio channels and its routing table is not the most intuitive. So, with the Bridgecast at just $430, quite noticeably cheaper than a full-size Go XLR, it's not only the next best thing, it's honestly better than the Go XLR in a lot of ways too. It comes in at not just the cheapest out of everything that I've mentioned, but also one of the best options for creators who are looking for a premium creator-first mixer that won't break the bank. A lot of my gripes with the Bridgecast can be easily fixed with updates from Roland, and while the other small things that I hope Roland include in a sequel overall don't take away from what the Bridgecast is currently. Overall, the Bridgecast gets a strong recommendation from me. If you want to be the first to know when Roland eventually, or at least hopefully, brings some updates to the Bridgecast, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. And if you found this review helpful, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Nick, this is Techtacula, you've been spectacular. See you next time.